I turned 60 on a Wednesday. Funny how the big numbers rarely arrive with fireworks. No thunder, no lightning. Just an ordinary morning. My coffee tasted the same. The dog barked at the mailman like she always did. But something in me had shifted. That night, after everyone left the house. My kids, now with kids of their own. My wife gently clearing plates in the kitchen. I sat alone at the edge of my bed and stared at the floor. 60. I always thought I'd feel accomplished by then, settled, maybe even wise. But all I felt was tired. And not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. I had just lost my job. Downsizing, they called it. After 32 years. No handshake, no plaque. Just a stiff envelope and a man half my age telling me how sorry he was. I nodded, said I understood. Shook his hand. But inside, something cracked. For the first time since I was a boy, I didn't know what tomorrow looked like. You see, when you're a man, especially of my generation, you build yourself around what you do. You wear it like skin. I was an engineer, proud of it. Solved problems, met deadlines, kept things going. I brought home the check. I kept the lights on. That was love back then. Providing. But when they took that title away from me, I realized something. I didn't know who I was without it. My wife, God bless her, tried to be supportive. But I pulled away. I told her I needed time. Truth is, I didn't want her to see me like that. Small. Uncertain. I'd always been the answer giver in the house. The one who fixed what broke. And now I was the thing broken with no one to fix me. I stopped shaving. Stopped calling friends. I'd go days without stepping outside. Just sat in the garage sometimes, watching dust settle on tools I no longer used. But silence has a strange way of showing you things. One afternoon, I found an old photo in a drawer. It was me, probably mid-30s, holding my daughter on my shoulders. She was laughing. My face looked different back then, not just younger but softer, open, like I believed the world still had something to offer. I touched the edge of that photo for a long time. Then I cried. Not because I missed the man I was, but because I finally saw how far I drifted from him. In that quiet breakdown, I learned something I had spent my whole life avoiding. Who you are is not what you do. It's how you sit with yourself when there's nothing left to prove. How you treat the people who see you fall. How honest you can be in the silence. 60 didn't destroy me. It just stripped away the noise so I could finally hear myself. And what I heard wasn't pretty, but it was true. I realized I had spent most of my life running. From fear, from shame, from softness. Always hiding behind doing, fixing, providing. Always filling time so I wouldn't have to feel time passing. But time, it catches up. It doesn't ask for permission. It just sits beside you one morning while you're buttering your toast and whispers, "Are you still pretending this is enough?" There's a peculiar ache that shows up around 3 in the morning when you're 60 and alone with your thoughts. Not the physical kind, though that comes too. But the kind that hums low in your chest like something you forgot to do a long time ago. I used to wake up at that hour a lot after I lost my job. Not from nightmares, just from the weight of stillness. There's nowhere to hide when the world is dark and quiet. That's when I began to notice how noisy my life had been. Meetings, emails, deadlines, traffic. Even laughter had a hurried tone to it, like we were all racing toward something, trying not to fall behind. And when that all disappeared, I didn't know how to be with myself. I thought I missed work, but what I really missed was distraction. One night, I made tea and sat outside. The stars were out, the wind soft on my skin. My hands wrapped around the warm mug like it was the only anchor I had left. And in that moment, I remembered something my father used to say when I was a boy. Silence isn't empty, son. It's full of answers. I used to roll my eyes at that. But now, sitting under that vast silent sky, it made sense. There were answers in that stillness. But you had to be brave enough to sit with the questions first. What was I really afraid of? Not dying. Not really. I was afraid of becoming invisible. You reach 60, and the world starts to blur you out. People speak to you slower. Waiters look past you. Your kids start calling less. It's not unkind. It's just the way things shift. You go from being the center to the scenery. I used to resist that, used to get angry. But one morning, as I watched my wife humming softly while folding the laundry, I saw something. Not pity, not sadness, just presence. She hadn't left. She hadn't tried to fix me. She just kept loving me in quiet ways I hadn't noticed before. And that was when I understood something I'd missed my whole life. Love isn't loud. It's not in the grand gestures or dramatic speeches. It's in the coffee she brings without asking. The way she adjusts the pillow under your neck when you fall asleep in the chair. The way she lets you grieve without rushing you through it. I spent decades trying to earn love by being useful, productive, reliable. But real love doesn't need to be earned. It just needs to be received. And let me tell you, that's harder than it sounds. Receiving love means admitting you're no longer the strong one, the provider, the hero. It means being held not because you're doing well, but because you're not. It means being seen in your weakest hour and not looking away. And if you're still here, reading this, listening to an old man spill the softer parts of himself, leave me a comment, just a word, a sentence. Let me know you're out there, because even after all these years, it's nice to feel a hand reaching back in the dark. After the tears dried up and the numbness wore off, I started walking. Not for exercise, though the doctor would have liked that, but because I didn't know what else to do with my body. My mind was a tangle, and walking gave it somewhere to go, even if my feet weren't sure of the destination. I'd walk the same loop every morning, past the old oak tree, the church that only filled on Sundays, and the empty swings at the park. No headphones, no purpose, just the sound of gravel crunching beneath my shoes and the slow rhythm of my own breathing. Funny how much the world offers when you finally slow down enough to see it. There was an older man, older than me even, who swept his porch every morning at the same time I passed. We never spoke, just nodded. But that small gesture felt like an anchor, a quiet kind of belonging. One morning, I noticed his porch was empty. No broom, no chair. I never saw him again. That's the thing about reaching 60. The world starts teaching you about impermanence in the most ordinary ways. People disappear, sometimes with warning, sometimes with a vacant porch and silence where a nod used to be. It hurt more than I expected. We weren't friends. We'd never even shared a word. But I had counted on his presence, on that simple rhythm of familiarity. And when he was gone, I felt the thread snap. It made me realize how little I'd noticed the people around me before. How often I moved through the world like a stranger in my own life, thinking the important stuff happened only in the big moments. But the truth is, the important stuff is the small moments, the quiet ones, the ones nobody claps for, like the way my dog rested her head on my knee when I sat too still for too long, or the way the sun filtered through the kitchen window just right at 7:32 a.m., or the first time I laughed again, not a forced social chuckle, but a real laugh, the kind that startles you because it's been gone so long. I remember what caused it, too. My grandson, 6 years old, told me I looked like a wise turtle. He meant it as a compliment, and somehow, there was a time when a comment like that would have bruised my pride. Back when I thought value came from being strong, fast, capable. But now, at 60, with the armor peeled away, I realized there's beauty in being slow, in being weathered, in having lines on your face that weren't there last year. Because every one of them is proof that you've been here, that you've endured. Youth is about motion, but aging is about stillness. Teaches you how to stay present, stay soft, stay open even when everything in you wants to shut down. I stopped walking just for the sake of walking. I started noticing the smell of rain on asphalt, the sound of birds who had no idea what day it was, the way my wife's hand always found mine in the dark, even after everything. You don't need to reinvent yourself at 60. You just need to finally meet yourself and sit with whoever that is, without shame. I always thought I was a good father. I showed up, paid the bills, fixed things when they broke, taught my son how to tie a tie, how to shake a hand firm but not too hard. I made pancakes on Sundays, taught my daughter how to parallel park in the church parking lot on quiet afternoons. But love isn't always what we intend. Sometimes it's what we miss. After I turned 60, my kids started calling less. Not because they didn't love me, but because I had spent years teaching them how to survive, not how to connect. I gave them strength, but not softness. Answers, but not presence. And now they were grown, and I was left with a quiet house full of echoes. My daughter came to visit one weekend. She was polite, kind, but distant. Her eyes held a weight I couldn't name. We sat in the backyard under the elm tree. I asked her how work was, if the kids were eating well, if the tires on her car were still holding up. Small talk, father talk. But then she looked at me and said something I didn't expect. "Dad, do you even know who I am anymore?" It knocked the air right out of me. She wasn't being cruel. She wasn't even angry. Just honest. The kind of honesty you save for when someone's finally ready to hear it. And I didn't say anything right away. Just stared at the dirt between my shoes. Because the truth was, she was right. I had missed things. Big things. The way her voice changed after college. The books she loved. The time she cried in the hallway at 16. And I told her to toughen up, because that's what I thought strength meant. It wasn't that I didn't care. It's that I didn't know how to care out loud. Men of my time were taught to lead, not listen. To fix, not feel. But 60 has a way of peeling back your pride. Showing you the ruins you built unintentionally. That night, I sat down and wrote both my children a letter. Not to explain, not to justify, but to say the words I had hoarded for too long. I'm sorry. I see you now. I love you, not for what you've done, but for who you are. It was the hardest thing I've ever written, and maybe the most important. A few weeks later, my son called. Not for anything urgent, just to talk. We stayed on the phone for an hour, which was rare for us. He told me he was scared about turning 40 soon. Said he wasn't sure if he was doing it right. I didn't give him advice. I just listened. And at the end he said, "Thanks, Dad. I needed that." No praise has ever meant more. You see, aging doesn't just mean your bones ache. It means your soul gets softer. It stops needing to win, to impress, to correct. It starts learning to simply be with others without needing to be the hero. Forgiveness, it's not just for others. It's for yourself too. You forgive yourself for not knowing better, for being too busy, too afraid, too proud. And in that forgiveness, something incredible happens. You start to heal, not into the man you used to be, but into the one you were always meant to become. It's been 20 years since that birthday. 60 feels like a whole other lifetime now. Like an old movie I once starred in but can barely remember the lines. And yet, some scenes never leave you. The tremble in my hands when I opened that layoff notice. The silence at the dinner table. The porch light flickering while I sat outside, wondering what comes next. I didn't think I'd make it through that year, but I did. Not by fixing everything, not by pretending to be strong, but by learning slowly how to be still, how to let things fall apart so something new could grow. That's the thing they don't tell you when you're young. Losing control isn't always a curse. Sometimes, it's the only way to come home to yourself. I started reading again. Not books about success or money, but the kind that made me feel less alone. Poetry. Letters from long-dead strangers who somehow understood what I couldn't say out loud. I started planting tomatoes. They didn't always grow right, but caring for something small, something that didn't ask anything of me except patience, brought a peace I hadn't known in years. My wife and I sit together more now. Not always talking, sometimes just being. Two bodies at rest. Two hearts finally done with running. I don't chase answers anymore. I hold questions like friends. What matters most now? Who do I want to be in this final chapter? What will I leave behind? Not in my will, but in my wake. And the truth is, I don't need everyone to remember my name. I just want the people I love to feel a little more seen, a little more safe, because I was here. That's enough. So if you're listening to this, wherever you are in your journey, 30, 50, 80, I hope you know it's not too late. Not too late to call someone. Not too late to forgive. Not too late to sit in the quiet and say, I don't know who I am right now, but I'm willing to find out. And if you ever need a place to return to, a voice that doesn't rush, a space that doesn't judge, you know where to find me. This porch isn't going anywhere. There's always room for one more chair.